What is going on? How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Hope everybody had a really good new year. Hope you enjoyed your time. Um, anyway, we're back to talk about some more Penn State football. So I did make a video about some key returns on the defensive side of the ball that Penn State had, but there's more transfer portal talk. It opened like 2 days ago, the transfer portal that is, and Penn State is very active. Penn State is going to be one of the more active teams throughout this process. And there is another key player that just left, and there is a key player that I think is going to be coming in at the quarterback position, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So, going to be talking about some transfer portal stuff, mainly at the quarterback position. Not going to go too in depth, just kind of giving my thoughts and opinions. So, we'll get straight into it. First thing I want to talk about is Ethan Grunkemeyer. So, Ethan Grunkemeyer is a guy that I think a lot of Penn State fans were really hoping would come back. I think he was near the top of the list for a lot of Penn State fans in terms of them hoping Matt Campbell would retain Ethan Grunkemeyer. As you know, there's another quarterback out there, which I'll talk about in a minute, that played for Matt Campbell for a lot of years and is very familiar with his offense. You know, when Matt Campbell came in, he brought over pretty much the entire Iowa State offensive staff, so it kind of makes sense. But still, a lot of guys were really hoping Ethan Grunkemeyer would be retained. I was one of those. I was really hoping that Ethan would find his way back to Penn State and really be the quarterback of the future because, you know, you have like 3 years control left. I think he showed everything that you want to see out of a quarterback in his little sample size that we did see about half of a season. You know, he came in and he really looked amazing. He looked very, very good in my opinion. I think his ceiling's incredibly high. To me, he lived up to the hype that he was getting coming out of high school. If you do remember, he was actually a pretty highly touted quarterback recruit coming out of high school. But obviously, when coaching changes happen, you see some players follow. And I think we have that situation in two different spots right here. Because when Ethan Grunkemeyer hit the portal, immediately one of the top schools to watch for in his recruitment now is Virginia Tech. Who is the head coach at Virginia Tech now? Former head coach at Penn State, James Franklin. So it makes all the sense in the world that Ethan Grunkemeyer would leave. But I do have some questions whether Matt Campbell did try and retain him. Like, I do wonder that. I really do wonder if Matt Campbell was able to watch the last few Penn State games, see the potential that Ethan Grunkemeyer had, and made some effort to retain him. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this was Matt Campbell's decision. Maybe he really did want to bring in his guy. Or maybe Ethan just didn't feel like Penn State and the new coaching staff was a fit for him, which I personally think that it would have been one of the best. It would have been an amazing fit. I think Ethan would have thrived in this new Matt Campbell ran offense. Or not Matt Campbell ran offense, but this Matt Campbell personnel offense. Because we've seen quarterbacks thrive in it. We've seen quarterbacks develop at a high level in it. You look at Brock Purdy. You look at what Iowa State's done with another quarterback that we're going to talk about in just a minute. I think you really value those 2 to 3 years of control that you have with them. And I think if you were able to retain him, you're in a pretty good spot. And I think you're pretty confident in making a pretty nice playoff push or maybe even a national championship push within the next 2 to 3 years. Probably around Ethan Grunkemeyer's senior year or redshirt junior year, I would say. But anyways, enough of the speculation. We're going to get straight into it. I believe Rocco Becht is going to be the new quarterback at Penn State. You see, this was not there yesterday, but now he has a crystal ball to Penn State. I think once Rocco Becht entered the portal, we kind of knew it. Like, there was really no other option. It was going to be Penn State no matter what. So I do think that was a big driving factor in Ethan Grunkemeyer leaving. But, oh, I got an ad. 247 is always giving me ads. But anyways, Rocco Becht. I'm not saying at all that Rocco Becht is a bad quarterback. When I say that I wanted to keep Ethan Grunkemeyer, it's mainly because we have more control over him. If you're looking at Rocco Becht, you have about 1 year. You're going to have 1 year with him. After that, who's going to be your quarterback? Because you're kind of in a thin quarterback room. You're going to have a lot of true freshmen in that quarterback room next year. I think there's like 2 or 3 of them, maybe even 4. because Jackson Smolik is now in the transfer portal. Ethan Grunkemeyer is in the transfer portal. So, yeah, you really have, yeah, it's going to be true freshmen in that quarterback room next year. Unless Matt Campbell brings in another guy as well or brings in a guy next year. But, I mean, I'm thinking kind of more long term in this because realistically, I don't see Penn State contending for a national championship next year. Although I do think that this roster and the players that Matt Campbell is able to retain and the players that Matt Campbell is bringing in, I think that this roster is highly underrated. You'll see a lot of media buzz about how Penn State's just going to be full of Iowa State players. That's, number one, that's false. And then you're going to see a lot of media buzz saying that all of Penn State's team is leaving to go to Virginia Tech. That is also false. You'll see a good bit of them, but not. I think the key players are mainly going to stick around at Penn State, as many of them have already announced they will be returning. And then you'll also see a lot of media buzz saying that, Penn State's losing everybody. That's also just not true because, we've already gotten multiple announcements on key players, key starters, key young guys, everything coming back to Penn State. So I think Matt Campbell and Penn State are sitting in a pretty good position. However, I don't see it being like national championship contenders year one, which year one will be Rocco Becht. I think that the ideal situation would have been to keep Ethan Grunkemeyer, let him develop under this offense one more year, just let him play next year, build some confidence, and then within 2 or 3 years, or within another year or two, you'll probably be sitting pretty in a nice spot. But anyways, I think Rocco Becht is a really good quarterback. If you look at what he's done at Iowa State with much less talent than what he's going to have at Penn State, I think it's incredible what he's done. He's looked like a very good quarterback at Iowa State. And if you know anything about Iowa State, it's very tough to recruit good talent over there. So you're seeing a lot of like unranked to 3-star guys that are playing at Iowa State, and they're just being developed at a very high level to make them at least compete in a conference where Iowa State really has no business competing in. And Matt Campbell kind of kept them competitive. Rocco Becht held his own in there, throwing to not much talent, like not much high-level talent. Whereas Penn State, you're going to have a lot more talent. You have a lot more resources. It's a more attractive place for recruits, so you're going to be able to get this higher-level talent. And if they were able to, this whole offensive staff, by the way, if they were able to develop those lower-tier talent guys into what they were at Iowa State, which is very slept on, imagine what they're going to do with these higher-level, like 4 and 5 stars. It's going to be a lot different. Rocco Becht is going to have a lot more support on that offense. He already knows the offensive system, so he's going to come in and know exactly what's going on. He's not going to have to adjust to anything other than a new environment. I think he's going to handle the environment very well. He's a veteran quarterback. He's experienced hostile environments. Now you're going to be playing in one, but instead of it being against you, it's going to be for you. So we'll see. We'll see how he fares against some of the top teams. If you do look at Penn State's schedule next year, I know I said that I don't see a national championship being in play. However, if you look at the schedule, it is a very favorable schedule. I could see Penn State squeezing into the playoffs or at least close to the playoffs. Like I said, check the schedule before you comment. It is a very weak schedule next year, and I think Penn State has a very good chance to at least push for the playoffs, especially being you are bringing in a veteran quarterback. You're bringing in a really good offensive staff. You have a pretty good defensive staff. You brought back a lot of key players on the defensive side of the ball. I think this is going to be a pretty underrated team next year. I think Rocco Becht will help elevate this team. I don't have anything bad to say about Rocco Becht. I do think Rocco Becht, if you look at his numbers, yeah, they're not going to jump out. If you look at his numbers, you're also probably going to be like, why is this going to be our guy next year? You got to watch the eye test. The eye test says otherwise. If you watch Rocco Becht, you could tell he's a good quarterback. Like I said, if you look at Iowa State last year, they were really outmatched in talent. So Rocco Becht's resources to really help him on offense were very limited. Whereas Penn State, you're not going to be outmatched that much, especially with the schedule next year. If you look at the schedule next year, you're probably going to be outmatching other opponents. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be very wrong, but that's just what I'm thinking. I think Rocco Becht's going to be very good at Penn State. I just wish that we could have had those extra years of Ethan Grunkemeyer because I do think he has a very high ceiling. But anyways, that'll be it for this one. I just want to go over a few quarterbacks, one leaving and one coming in. And by the way, Rocco Becht has a visit. He is currently right now at Penn State on his visit, so you'll probably see a commitment probably today or tomorrow when you're watching this. But anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it, I would greatly appreciate it if you considered subscribing to the channel. I've gotten tremendous amount of support from Penn State fans. I love the Penn State fan base. Obviously, it's my favorite team. But yeah, lots more Penn State content coming, especially as we start to hear more about what's going on in the transfer portal. And Matt Campbell's pretty active, so expect a lot of transfer content for Penn State. And I also have a video coming out about pretty much everybody that Penn State has either lost or retained. So be on the lookout for that one. That'll just come in this week. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.